Okay, let's go from the beginning of the fifth Perek. First Mishnah. God is, no, I think we have to review, I think we have to review the end of the fourth Perek from the 10th Mishnah, from Mishnah Yud. So here we define Leket. Ezu Leket, what's Leket? Hanoisher b'shas hakitzira. It's things that fall at the time of the harvest. Haya kaitzer, if he was harvesting, and katzer mali yada, he harvested a handful, or talash, or he was not cutting but picking by pulling it off, mali kumse, a fistful, and then he kites, he got stuck by a thorn. V'nafal miyad, he dropped the whole handful aretz to the ground. Harehu shobalabayis, that is not considered leket, something that fell unintentionally, and that the balabayis, the worker could pick back up and give to the field owner. Another exception from leket, toichayad v'toichamagol laniyim, something that fell from within the worker's hand or from within the sickle and landed on the ground, that goes to aniyim. Acharayad v'achar hamagol, something that was outside of it, from the back of the hand or the sickle, it got knocked and fell down. That's not leket, and that goes l'balabayis. Rosh hayad v'rosh hamagol, if it's from his fingertips or from the tip of the sickle, that's a machlekes. Rabbi Shmuel omer l'aniyim. Rabbi Shmuel says we'll go to the aniyim. Rabbi Kiva omer l'balabayis. Rabbi Kiva says no, that's not leket. That's like outside, and the balabayis will be able to keep it.
So kavana is a big deal, because like if you get stuck by a thorn, your kavana is not to give it as lechet.
Well, it's not kavana. It's never kavana, because it's stuff that it's always stuff that fell unintentionally.
Yeah.
It's whether there's something you could blame it on. Well, I could say this thing made it fall, or is it just typical? Nothing went wrong. It just there's too much here and it fell. Chayri an molim, the anthills. Shebetecha kama, the ones that are among the standing grain, or the part of the field that was not yet harvested, harein shel balabayis. So that grain, the assumption is the ants gathered from the grain that hadn't been harvested yet, so there's no concern of leket over there. Shala'achar hakaitzrim, the anthills in the part of the field you already harvested, so then there's a concern that maybe some of the grain in those anthills is from leket grain that the ants carried off into their anthills. So the first Tana says, "El yoinim laniyim," whatever is on top of the anthill you give to the poor people. V'tachteinim shel balabayis, and what's on the bottom the balabayis can keep, because presumably that's been there for a long time. That's what was there from before the harvest started. And Rameir says no. Hakol aniyim, the aniyim can take everything in the anthills. Shesafik leket, because whenever you have a doubt whether something is or isn't leket, we assume it is leket. And since you can't really define where you're concerned that the grain is on top and from the leket, so therefore the aniyim can take the whole all of the grain they find in this anthill. Okay, now let's begin the fifth Perek. A similar problem. Gadish shalaliket tachtav. If you pile up your grain in a spot where the aniyim had not yet had a chance to pick up the leket underneath it first. So you have a similar problem. You have a whole big pile of grain. There presumably was some leket on the ground where you plopped it down, and you don't know exactly how much. So what do you do here? So the Mishnah says, Kol hanegeya b'aretz harei shel aniyim. So the way we deal with the problem is anything that's touching the ground, that goes to the aniyim, so we'll give the aniyim the entire bottom layer. And we're pretty confident that will for sure give them everything that's leket. Right over here, there's less of a concern of leket piling up, because if there was a pile of leket over there, presumably it wouldn't go to the aniyim anyway, because you have to have dropped a whole handful or something. So what about haruach shepizra es haimurim? What happens if I bundled up my field and the wind came and undid all my work and everything gets scattered, and now again you have all the leket that's left in the field mixed up with all the things I harvested? So then, you make an estimation of how much leket do you think there would have been, since you can't give the aniyim the whole field. We're not going to do that to the balabayis. It's not his fault that the wind messed up all his work. So he'll make an estimation how much leket he thinks there would be in his field, and That's what he gives. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says, Noisin la'aniyim kedei nefila. You don't need to make any estimation. There's a set percentage called a kedei nefila, the amount that normally falls, which is 3 kav for a core, which comes out to 1/45. So there's an assumption that 1/45 of the total yield of the field is what's going to fall for the aniyim, so about 2%. So you'll give them a little bit more. That much is what you'll give for leket, and you don't have to make any complicated calculations. Just measure it all and give them a little more than 2%.
So that cheshbon, that mathematical, that's in the Gemara?
Yeah, in the Yerushalmi. I think it's the Yerushalmi. Okay, now, without telling you, the Mishnah has skipped to the next thing, to shikha, to anything that the owner forgot, or the worker who's working in the field forgot, the aniyim can also take. So, shiboila shibakatzer. If you have a stalk of grain that's in the part of the field that was already harvested, so if you still have a standing stalk of grain in the harvested field, that means it was missed. So that would be considered shikha if v'reisha magia lakama, but it's not so far away. It's close enough that you can bend the stalk over and pull the top of it, and it will reach to the grain that's still standing. So then it depends. Im niktzer makam, if it's close enough that you could pull it and hold it in your hand and harvest it all together, then harayusha balabayas, then the balabayas may do that and he may take it. V'im lav, if it's too far away that you can't harvest it together with the remaining standing grain, then it's considered shikha, it's considered something he forgot, and harayusha aniyim would go to the aniyim. And back to our general concern over here of leket getting mixed in. Shiboila shel leket, if you have a single stalk of leket, shenis arva begodish, that got mixed in, now it's not on the bottom anymore, you just know it fell in somewhere into your pile of grain, there's a single stalk of leket over here, so what do? So the first Tana says, Meiser shiboilas achas, take one stalk out of your pile, take off Meiser, because you can't assume it's leket, it might be one of your own, so you want to solve the problem of being tevel, so take Truma Meiser off it, but nice and you'll give it to the ani. And you'll say, here, take this instead of your leket. Amr Beliezer says, wait a second. What gives this poor person the right to exchange whatever stalk you're giving him for the one he never got? He never had any ownership of it. It was something that any ani could take, but no one took it. So he says, there's a better system. What should you do? You give the ani rights to the whole pile on condition that he gives you all of it back except for what's his. And then then you take meiser from one stalk, and you give it to him, and he'll give you back the rest of the pile. And that way, he will have had ownership on the leket in order to affect this exchange and make it yours. Okay, let's stop here.
Wow.